Test, 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 test. Test 1, 2. Test, test.
So, did they tell you that,
Yeah, you are you turned on?
ready to put the mic on? You're good?
The October 11th, 2022 meeting of the Monroe County Legislature will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Alcoffer. Mr. Alcoffer is present. Ms. Barnhart. Ms. Barnhart is present. Mr. Baines. Mr. Baines is present. Mr. Blankley. Mr. Blankley is present. Mr. Brew. Mr. Brew is present. Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess is present. Mr. Colby. Mr. Colby is present. Mr. Delahaney. Mr. Delahaney is present. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman. Ms. Delvecchio Hoffman is present. Mrs. DeFlorio. Mrs. DeFlorio is present. Mr. Dondorfer. Mr. Dondorfer is present. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Frazier is present. Ms. Hasman. Ms. Hasman is present. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Hebert. Mr. Hebert is present. Ms. Hughes Smith. Ms. Hughes Smith is present. Mr. Johns. Mr. Johns is present. Mr. Keller. Mr. Keller is present. President Lamar.
Here.
President Lamar is present. Mr. Long. Mr. Long is present. Mr. Mafucci. Mr. Mafucci is present. Mr. Marinetti. Mr. Marinetti is present. Mr. McCabe. Mr. McCabe is present. Mr. Milne. Mr. Milne is present. Ms. Roman. Ms. Roman is present. Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith is present. Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor is present. Ms. Vasquez Simmons. Ms. Vasquez Simmons is present. Ms. Vecchio. Ms. Vecchio is present. Mr. Udelson. Mr. Udelson is present.
Please join me in a moment of silent prayer. Please stand as Legislator Udelson leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the approval of journal. Your copies of the journal of day 11 of 2022, September 13th, 2022, day 12 of 2022, September 13th, 2022 special meeting, and day 13 of 2022, September 28th, 2022 special meeting are now available through Novus Agenda. Without exception, the journal will stand approved as submitted. Legislators, the referrals submitted to the legislature for the next committee cycle are available on Novus Agenda as well as online. There are several proclamations scheduled this evening. Mr. Clerk?
Would Kathy Lee please come forward? Also, County Executive Adam J. Bello, legislators Steve Brew, Jackie Smith, and President Sabrina Lamar.
Whereas Monroe County continually recognizes the accomplishments of outstanding citizens in our community, in particular outstanding citizens who endeavor to build and grow new organizations aimed at addressing current deficiencies in services or elsewhere. And whereas Kathy Lee of the Mary Cariola Center began as a special education teacher, where she first recognized such need. In response, Kathy started a 4-H club in her classroom. Those who were lucky enough to be a student of Miss Lee's classroom became known as Busy Bees. And whereas the Busy Bees, a classroom of vibrant and eager 16 to 21-year-olds, reinforced the 4-H foundation that every child has valuable strengths and real influence to improve the world around us. For over 30 years, the Busy Bees have gone above and beyond. And whereas as a part of the Monroe County 4-H Youth Development Program, the Busy Bees have become deeply involved with every project they are involved in, from making quilts to growing mushrooms to art projects and most recently 4-H public presentations. The Busy Bees certainly remain busy learning. In furtherance of their motto that if you receive, you must give back, the Bees routinely give to the community, including St. John's Home, Ronald McDonald House, and more. Now, therefore, we, Sabrina Lamar, President, Adam J. Bello, County Executive, Steve Rue, Majority Leader, and Jackie Smith, Deputy Majority Leader, on behalf of the entire Monroe County Legislature, do hereby recognize Kathy Lee for her dedication to our community, 4-H youth development, and the Busy Bees.
Thank you all so much. I don't have words to say what how much this means to me, but to my kids, my Busy Bees. 4-H and Cornell Cooperative Extension looked at us and said, sure, you can join us. And it's the county's commitment to 4-H and to Cornell, but all of your commitment, which allows us to do what we can do. And we can give and we can show. Albert came to see us and it was wonderful. Anybody who wants to come and visit us, come and visit us. We love it. Dee was a 2021 Outstanding Youth from Monroe County because of her, yes. Because of her commitment to giving to others. Dee doesn't see anything that can get in her way. She just gives from the heart. This week, she's going to go to Wegmans and get stuff so we can make snack bags for parents at Ronald McDonald House because one of our friends in our classroom was just in the hospital. How do you give back? That's how we give back. That's how we can say thank you. So just so proud of her. So proud of my kids. Thank you. Yeah, I can't tell you. Thank you. What this means. Thank you.
Sure. My pleasure.
Would Van Smith and representatives from the recovery houses of Rochester please come forward?
Legislator Vecchio.
Also, Legislator Carolyn DeVecchio Hoffman and President Sabrina Lamar.
Yes.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
No, it's
Whatever you guys want.
Oh, okay.
The Monroe County Legislature recognizes Van Smith and the recovery houses of Rochester, whereas it is the sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations that make Monroe County a better place to live, and whereas attendant to such concern, the legislature is justly proud to honor Van Smith, and whereas Mr. Smith is the founder and executive director for the recovery houses of Rochester, and whereas Van has dedicated his time in the organization by assisting and the reestablishment of community members, helping to reduce relapse and assisting in mental health issues that may be present. And whereas Van and Recovery Houses of Rochester help to secure jobs, make recovery plans, and provide structure and routine to recovering clients. And whereas Recovery Houses of Rochester was originally founded due to the lack of sober living facilities for men, particularly men of color, and has since expanded to 3 locations. And whereas Van provides those working through their chemical dependencies with a place to live and also recover. And whereas the contributions of Mr. Smith represents characteristics of a model citizen who works to not only improve themselves, but the lives of others. And now, therefore, let it be known that we, Sabrina Lamar, President, and Carolyn Delvecchio Hoffman, Legislator, District 25, do hereby honor Van Smith on this 11th day of October 2022.
Yeah.
Good evening, President Lamar, county legislators, and respective citizens of our community. We want to thank you for this recognition in regards to being able to do what we love, and that's serve people. The gentleman that we have up here today, I told them of this recognition and told them they didn't have to come. They didn't choose to want to come. And they chose to be here, to be recognized. So we recognize all of you. Your families, and the contributions you are making to this community. Thank you on behalf of the Board of Directors of Recovery Houses of Rochester, the staff, the volunteers. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to serve you and to build relationships that will continue to grow, because this work is bigger than me. This is God's work. And he said, put your hand to the plow, don't look back, and keep your head down and do the work. And we want to thank you all again for this recognition. 32 years ago, I was standing in one of those spots as an individual seeking recovery. We're here to tell you today that your investment in us was worth it. Thank you.
Would Kim Dadu Brown please come forward? Also, Legislator Carolyn Delvecchio Hoffman, President Sabrina Lamar.
How do you say your name? Dadu. That's what I thought. Okay. The Monroe County Legislature recognizes Kim Dadu Brown, whereas it is the sense of this legislature to honor and celebrate the people and organizations that make Monroe County a better place to live, and whereas attendant to such concern, the legislature is justly proud to honor Kim Dadu Brown. And whereas Kim is a domestic abuse survivor who passionately advocates for all domestic abuse survivors, and whereas Kim served a wrongful 17-year sentence for defending herself from domestic abuse, and whereas Kim worked extensively advocating for the Domestic Violence Survivors Act that was signed into law in 2019 to protect others from the jail sentence she received. And whereas Kim uses her voice to change the legal system to protect domestic abuse survivors and reduce sentencing terms. And whereas Kim and her work has been featured in various media, including New York Times, New York Now, Legislative Gazette, the Huffington Post, Albany Times Union, North Country Public Radio, Gannett, and the New York Law Journal. Kim has also appeared as a guest expert on the Melissa Harris Perry Show, and whereas her story is one of 3 featured in the documentary film And So She Stayed. And she has continued to advocate for other survivors and turned her trauma into the role of advocate for the voices. And now, therefore, let it be known that we, Sabrina Lamar, President, and Carolyn DeVecchio Hoffman, Legislator, District 25, do hereby honor Kim Dadu Brown on this 11th day of October, 2022.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for this honor and this privilege. Just 2 minutes. 30 years ago, I was arrested for murder and prosecuted in Monroe County for defending myself from my abusive boyfriend. And it means everything to me for my voice to be heard tonight in this same place where I was prosecuted. Domestic violence survivors should not be prosecuted for choosing to live. We don't correlate the women who die from the women who saved themselves. We're separate. And the criminal justice system prosecutes us without any regard. So that's why I knew when I was arrested in December 1991, and when I came home 17 years later in November 2008, that something had to change. And so I have worked very hard, and we lobbied for the DVSJA, the Domestic Violence Survivors Justice Act, for 10 years in Albany until we got it passed in 2019. To this day, we've gotten it's 30 something, I want to say almost 40, because that sounds better. We've gotten almost 40 survivors out of prison. And I have to say that that is my greatest accomplishment. Thank you again, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
There are no formal committee reports scheduled for this evening. We will now hold the public forum. We have several people registered to address the legislature. Mr. Clerk?
If you require assistance, a deputy is available to assist you in approaching the lectern. I will call 3 people forward at one time. Each speaker will have 2 minutes in which to address the legislature, and kindly conclude your remarks when the timer sounds, and then exit through the door right over here to my right, your left. Thank you for your cooperation. Our first 3 speakers will be Elliot Curran, Miles Warren, Marian Yanusu.
Hello, my name is Elliot Kuhn, and I'm a 6th grader at Anna Marie Douglas Academy, School Number 12. I want to thank all those who helped in the passing of the Climate Action Plan. This plan will greatly benefit our community and reduce fossil fuel usage. Monroe County is setting an example for other communities. We need to take further steps. A way to accomplish this is to take actions to support community composting. In the Climate Action Plan, composting is listed as a high priority. Food waste is a big problem, with more than 119,000 tons of food waste being generated in Monroe County in 2010. This is why I asked you to support community composting. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. I am Miles Warren, a sixth grade student of Anna Marie Douglas Academy, school number 12. I want to thank those who voted for the Climate Action Plan. This really means a lot to me. It gives me hope that we can change. But how can we change? One thing we can do is to start community composting. This can help reduce emissions and create better waters. Evaluate processing capacity for composting of food waste organics is the number one priority goal in the solid waste and materials management section of the Climate Action Plan. Compost can be used for school gardens like mine and help create better communities. I am really excited to see where this goes, and I look forward to further changes in our community that improve the circumstances of climate change in this community. Thank you for having me, and I hope your leadership in this issue grows.
Good evening, members of the Monroe County Legislature and residents. I am Maria Munizu, here to discuss the need to address climate change. Climate change refers to the long-term changes in global temperatures and other characteristics of the atmosphere. The biggest impact on climate change is fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are burned and used to make heat and generated to make electricity, but also produce carbon dioxide. If we had solar panels, there would be less need to burn fossil fuels because solar panels are powered by the sun's light. When we are parking our cars, we should turn the engines off because if we don't, they will continue to release dangerous chemicals such as carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide. Sulfur dioxide is a greenhouse gas, and if inhaled, it could have side effects such as teary eyes, sore throat, asthma, cancer, or even death. This is why we should turn our engines off when our vehicles are not moving. Climate change could be irreversible by 2030, so we might only have 8 years to change our actions. Little changes will help, particularly if many people make these little changes. Smoke and greenhouse gases could produce acid rain and could cause an animal's homes to be inhabitable. 5 billion people die due to climate change every year. So you see, we are not just doing this for ourselves. We are doing it so all humans and animals can survive. We want everyone to grow and live a healthy life. We know that working together gives us more power than working alone. So let's rise as one community so we can have a bigger opportunity to make our voices heard and fix this climate crisis. For if we don't, we will face devastation and destructiveness towards us and the earth. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Our next three speakers are Dr. Lanane, Cheryl Briggs, and Robin Will.
Can I start now?
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Ann Lanane, and I'm a child abuse pediatrician at the University of Rochester, and I've worked in that role for many years. I'm just thinking back to November 14th of 2016. I was on call. I got a call in the early morning about a little girl who was 3 years old, who was in the pediatric intensive care unit having life support withdrawn. This is a little girl that was killed by abusive trauma. And some of you may be familiar with this case. At the time, it was actually an open CPS case. And the caseworkers at that time had caseloads of 30 cases average. That's about twice as many cases as a caseworker should usually have. So there's no way that they could adequately investigate the cases, manage the cases, and keep children safe. So after that, there was a lot of change and a lot of reform in this community, and I was very happy about that. I saw caseworker numbers increases, their caseloads go down, things got much better. But now I'm just worried that the next time my phone rings, it's going to be another Brooke Stagels. So right now, we're in a real crisis with protective services. I work at Bavona Child Advocacy Center with a multidisciplinary team. So we have a group of caseworkers. One of the teams works in our building. They're the caseworkers that investigate the sex abuse cases, the serious physical abuse cases, and the child fatalities. So these caseworkers are amazing. They go out to homes where a child has died, and in addition to consoling the family, they may have to also remove the children that same day because the safety of the home can't be determined. These caseworkers go out 24/7 in all kinds of weather to houses where there's gangs, but they're worried that a child may be unsafe in the home. They know that there's guns and people who would be willing to harm them. They wait outside till law enforcement arrives, and they go into those homes in all kinds of conditions to try to make children safe. The starting salary is in the area of about $40,000. So right now we're in the kind of crisis that the caseworker staffing is down by about 40%. There's no way that we can keep children safe in this community with that kind of a staffing. And without significant raises in support services for caseworkers, we're not going to be able to keep children in this community safe. And I'm so worried about that. And that's why I'm here. I don't know if they said that I could have an additional 2 minutes. Can I go on for another minute or so?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the things that I'm worried about, and on the team that I work with, the caseworkers are getting a new case every day. And again, these are caseworkers that are investigating serious physical abuse cases. These are really complicated cases of children in the hospital, often in the intensive care unit with multiple injuries, and they have to work with us to understand the injuries. And we as a team have to decide if these are from abuse or not, and where a child is safe and where a child is not safe. But I'm more worried about the teams that are investigating cases of kids with, like they say, just bruises, because Brooke Stagels was one of those cases. This is a little girl with bruises on her face that were concerning. But again, the caseworkers didn't have the time or the resources to do a proper investigation.
Summarize, please.
So again, my concern is that with 40% staffing reduction, with the salaries that caseworkers are offered these days, with the sort of lack of support services that they need to use to do their jobs, that tomorrow morning I'm going to get a call about another case like this. So thank you so much for your time.
Here to address the legislature about redistricting. And the crux of the issue that opposing members of the Democratic caucus seem to have with the Crescent map that I support is that it consolidates the Black vote into 5 majority Black districts. I cannot for the life of me understand why empowering Black voters with enough leverage and opportunity to elect their preferred representatives without voting in coalition with other minority groups or whites is somehow problematic. After all, white voters enjoy the exact same status in the other 24 of the 29 districts. Can you imagine? Can anyone imagine contending that white voters are packed into districts simply because they enjoy majority status? It sounds ludicrous. Democrats opposing the map would prefer majority, minority, or effective Black districts, where Black voters must vote in coalition with other groups to assert their electoral preference and power, even though they don't ask that of the same thing of majority white districts. Does that sound fair? No, it's not. The problem with the position of those opposed to the creation of the crescent map is that their intent and reasoning is in flagrant violation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. The same Voting Rights Act that John Lewis and so many civil rights leaders of the 1950s and 60s agitated, bled, and died for. Those who oppose the map essentially want to preserve a status quo of racially gerrymandered districts that serve to uphold white supremacy. As far as morality is concerned, there are no two sides to this issue. There is what is morally just and equitable for Black voters in Monroe County, or there's upholding a system of Jim Crow. And I'll summarize. Because what's disappointing is that the people who oppose the map, whatever their excuses, in co-opting the language of equity and justice, they're desecrating the memory of John Lewis and every civil rights advocate who has successfully overcome the unfair status quo to achieve a measure of equality. All those social justice warriors, from Frederick Douglass to Constance Mitchell and beyond, would support the Crescent Map. And we demand that you do as well.
Our next three speakers are Reverend Myra Brown, Jessica Kilpatrick, and Damon Wilson.
Good evening. Sorry, I'll wait for you. Sorry. Dear County Executive, Fellow, and legislators, never have I felt more challenged in this most recent struggle our city is enduring over granting the Black community 5 majority Black voting districts that it's entitled to. The Voting Rights Act was enacted because Black voters were denied equal representation compared to white voters in this country. To think that in 2022, that fight continues not only in Rochester, but across America in places like Detroit and California and Alabama. Rochester is getting less media attention, but the issues and questions are the same. The questions that I carry is that when a group of marginalized people assert their rights under the rules established by the power structure itself, why won't representatives of that power structure follow their own rules to enfranchise them? Why are power brokers here and in cities across America spending thousands of dollars asserting paternalistic culpability narratives, bringing in people they call experts who exist outside of the marginalized people's reality, and choosing self-interest over enfranchisement of collective Black communities? Whenever justice for the marginalized is within reach, there's always a voice that emerges that says, sorry, no can do, go back to the drawing board. This decentering and deciding for Black minority communities instead of listening to them is a common occurrence. Dr. King and so many others gave their lives to ensure equal access and proportionate representation in a white dominant power structure. And yet still we as Black citizens struggle for equity, enfranchisement, and inclusion. So as a pastor, I find myself asking, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus center himself over the lives, the needs, and cry of the poor and marginalized? Would and did Jesus delay justice, access, shared power, equity, and healing for women and lepers and blind people and orphans and widows and Samaritans and children for fear of losing political and religious patronage, influence, anxiety, reputation, or favor with those of his power structure? Of course not. It is why he ended up on Calvary's cross, having nothing left to give but love. So let's pray that we can begin to love Black people and those on the margins enough in this country, in this city, and this legislature to give them what they seek without injecting resistance from a place of institutional and systemic power that displaces, decenters, ignores, and disallows our voice in need for justice. Reflecting on Jesus and the prophet Micah gives me clarity during these troubled times as I pray for you to pass and approve the proposed 5 Black majority voting districts As Micah says in 6 and 8, God has told you, O mortal, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God.
Hi, I'm Jessica Kilpatrick. I work for Child Protective Services. You may remember me from the past 2 months. I do want to thank the current administration because they did announce a 7% raise. That's not all signed off on yet, but that's more than any administration has done. I mean, I was here when Brooks during her administration, then Denolfo. So we are thankful for that. But I told Adam that I would still come and I have to speak out because even with that, whenever that's coming, I'm on the training team. So we hired 5 new caseworkers and they started on September 26th. So they're not going to be actually going out and investigating any reports until probably March. So from now until then, we still have, caseworkers that are going to be getting up into the 30s and 40s with their caseload. As Dr. Lanane spoke earlier, you know what happens when caseworkers get into the 30s and 40s. So I'm just going to keep reminding you of, we're in crisis. And what's making it more difficult is that, the cases are going to continue to come. The work gets spread out amongst more people because we still need bodies to go out. So you have people that have not done investigations before going out into the community conducting investigations. So I just want to kind of reiterate that it's always going to be more money. More money will recruit people who want to be here. It will recruit and keep people to stay because we are having people, continue to leave. I don't want to see children dying. I'm sure you don't want to see children dying. And it's not even that. I don't know if it's happening right now, but it's the public perception and what's going to come along with that. We do have fatalities in this county, but they're not making the news, okay? So it's when it's making the news and it's broadcast everywhere. That's when things, seem to change. We're in the business of assessing safety and assessing risk. And right now, kids are unsafe. So I'm going to just be that annoying bee that keeps being in your ear, and I'm going to let you know what's going on. And I'm going to keep bringing more people with me, and they're going to let you know what's going on. So it's not a surprise if a utter catastrophe happens. Been here in August, September, October. I'm sure some of you are up for re-election next month. I'll be here right before Christmas. We'll be here in 2023. Yes, summarize.
My name is Damon Wilson, and I'm just here to speak about the redistricting map. I just want to say a couple words from my heart. It's sad for me to stand up here and say that a part of me is starting to believe that there are people in this legislature that don't care about Black people. I believe you care about crime. I believe you care about education. I believe you care about jobs. But I'm starting to question whether you care about those close to 115,000 people in this county that are consider themselves African American. First, it's hard for me to believe that anyone who would try to mislead the public with the term effective Black majority districts truly doesn't care. 46 to 37% has never made a majority, and it never will. You are elected officials, and you know very well that you cannot win an election with only 46% of the votes. A majority is 50. Thank you. A majority is 50% plus 1. So either you have a majority or you don't. Case closed. Second, it's hard for me to believe that anyone who tries to justify denying someone their law-given and God-given rights truly does not care. I've heard that some people believe that it's unnecessary for Blacks to have their own majority districts. Well, until you've experienced life as a Black person, you can't speak on what's necessary and what's not. Furthermore, I don't think that the Black legislatures fall in this category, but I want to just have a quick word with you all too. That if you support not having these districts, just know what you're truly supporting. If you don't support the Black districts, you know that you're siding with a system that has strategically disenfranchised your community. Please understand that your vote matters and that know what your vote is saying once you cast it. Lastly, it's hard for me to believe that anyone will allow fear to prevent them from empowering an entire community. It's hard for me to think that and still think that they care. This is systemic racism at its finest, because controversy is less about the people who are actually doing the voting and more about the person who's being elected. The fear is that the Black majority will automatically vote for Black people, which isn't a bad thing, but it negates the fact that Black people want to vote for people who are willing to fight for their needs and their wants. We want people willing to invest in the Black community and bring our concerns to the table. Unfortunately, what this legislature wants to do is restrict the Black community's voting rights instead of trying to be the best person for the job. Racism requires that you restrict the many to privilege the few. So as I take my seat, I know that there might be some adjustments in the future that need to be made, but don't let it come at the expense of a whole community. So show the Black residents in this county that you care. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Marcus Williams, David Stevenson, and Linda Fideli.
Sorry about that. I wanted to get out my notes real quick. Make sure that I say the right stuff. I usually don't need any notes, but I need to mention this. Okay. Hello, good evening. My name is Marcus C. Williams, and I fight and advocate for my community all the time, whether that be on my district level as far as legislative district, or whether that be for people that look like me and my Hispanic brothers and sisters. It's very important to me that we get adequate representation that's going to fight for us. And there's been some serious concerns that I have to share with you tonight. And this year I am running for state assembly for the 137th Assembly District. And the reason why that's important tonight, because I want to highlight these ledge districts. 27, 25, which is mine. 22, part 28, 29, 21, 26, 24th. So, excuse me, 4th, not 24th. Part of those are all part of the assembly district that I'm running for this year. My very large concern is that the people in these districts are not being represented because the crime is absolutely outrageous. It's abhorrent, and people keep sitting up here talking about guns, and they want to talk about gun control. Okay, gun control is not the problem. The illegal guns which continue to flow into our communities are the serious issue. The drugs that continue to flow into our communities are the serious issue. I was supposed to be at a wake tonight, but I saw something on the news earlier that I did not like, so I decided that I needed to be here because the person that I was going to the wake for had massive organ failure because of the drugs that continue to flow into our community. Okay? So, when you tell me that drugs are not an issue that you need to actually speak out about because you want to take law-abiding citizens' rights away for them to be able to defend themselves, when the same people that are passing these laws to make it so people can't defend themselves push to defund the police, okay, so that our neighborhoods and our communities are not safe,
the values and the morals and the concerns for the constituents in the area that I am working to represent are not being represented. We want to be able to defend ourselves against the criminals that are continued to be released based on things like bill reform, less is more, and the rest of the daggone bills, the discovery laws. I'm frustrated. So all of these things, maybe people love them, maybe you hate them, but they need to be amended because they ain't working. And stop taking away people's Second Amendment right. And I'm going to finish up. The old people told me when I was little, when black people start buying more guns, they're going to change the laws to restrict it so that we can't own firearms. And that's exactly what has been done because they do not want us to defend our communities after they got rid of the police and let the criminals run wild on our streets. Thank you very much. I got more to say, but I'm out of here for today.
Hi, my name's Dave Stevenson. I would like to wish you all a happy Columbus Day. The arrival of Columbus in 1492 marks the beginning of recorded history in America. The Pledge of Allegiance was written in 1892 in honor of the 400th anniversary of the first voyage. Many Italians celebrate Columbus Day. I'm also celebrating the Festivus airing of grievances here today. It's a little early, but I think it's appropriate. I'm angry with the decision to reconfirm Mike Mendoza as Commissioner of Health. More and more reasons are coming out daily that vaccines and masks are not safe nor effective for COVID-19. I have a relative who is a healthcare worker in Monroe County who took the vaccines and wore masks daily and now has cardio issues from the vaccine and toxic mold issues from the mask, who spent a large amount of time aboard ships waiting offshore to unload them. Mendoza has also ignored early home treatment, which would have saved many lives. I'm angrier at the Republicans who controlled the agenda charter and human services committees, who had the power to block the appointment, but voted to confirm. The Republicans sold us out and betrayed us twice in the committees. The votes against Mendoza in the full legislature are meaningless because he could have been stopped in the committees. On a different issue, the University of Rochester Medical Center, Golisano Children's Hospital offers gender transition services for as young as 8 and 11-year-olds, according to recent articles. Gender health services provided by Golisano Children's Hospital include puberty blockers, which are irreversible and cause long-term damage, and orchiectomies, which is castration of healthy young men, and female-to-male top surgery, which apparently is breast surgery to remove the healthy breast of young women. Kids can't vote. Why can they change their gender? Kids can't drink alcohol. Why can they change their gender? Parents who consent to transgender surgery and puberty blockers are child abusers. Doctors who perform transgender surgery and prescribe puberty blockers are also child abusers. The transition or suicide narrative falsely implies that transition will prevent suicides, which is factually inaccurate and morally and ethically wrong.
Please summarize.
What is Mendoza's position on transgender services provided by his employer, University of Rochester Medical Center? This seems to be yet another conflict of interest. It seems doubtful that Mendoza will go against his evil employer's money-making scheme and will instead support the destruction of children, especially after the county legislature voted to approve his $1.5 million salary over the next 6 years. Thank you.
I'd like to first congratulate and thank the young people who spoke tonight on the Climate Action Plan. You all give me such hope. Members of the legislature. Hi, I'm Linda Isaacson Fideli, a resident of Parenton. Thank you for your service. I often wonder why anyone would sign up for an elected position in today's times, because no matter what you do, you are going to be targeted with anger from some. It can't be easy. I hope and trust that each of you is here to make a positive difference for residents in our community despite the challenges. Thank you for sticking with this hard work. Thank you also for the improvements that are being made in our county parks with your $16.6 million investment in the Parks Revitalization Initiative. I love the outdoors, the natural world, and I've therefore been concerned about climate change since I learned about it in 2006. I am or have been active with Color Fairport Green, Climate Solutions Accelerator, Mothers Out Front, and the Sierra Club. Those affiliations are because of my increasing fear about climate change. So thank you for the Phase 1 County Climate Action Plan addressing county operations. And I'm glad that a Phase 2 plan is planned for to take a community-wide greenhouse gas inventory of residential, commercial, and industrial emissions, and presumably to lay out and prioritize mitigation solutions there. I very much appreciate these plans and recognize that hard work went into them. And all they are is paper or bits on a screen until money is allocated to implement them. Please implement the mitigation solutions. Dedicate a line item in the budget solely for climate action. Make it a big number and make sure that it is spent equitably with priority given to those in our community who suffer most from flooding and heat waves, those who also contribute least to the problem. I'd also like to add my voice of support for a county composting facility. It would enable and require businesses that generate a large amount of food waste to comply with the state law requiring composting if within a 25-mile radius of a facility. I have less than a minute to go. Not to mention, give county residents another way to reduce their carbon footprint without much effort. I'm glad to see composting as a priority 1 item in the CAP. Please start there and let it be the beginning of many more concrete greenhouse gas emissions mitigation efforts. For the sake of our community, thank you for the hard work of the Climate Action Task Force so far, and please now let's move on from planning to action. Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Melanie Bernhardt, Kylie Youth, and Nicholas Wilt.
Oh, okay, thanks. Hi, my name's Melanie Bernhardt. I was here last month to discuss the COVID vaccine. And I stated then that the vaccine was not FDA approved. It's still not FDA approved. I also mentioned a Facebook page called Died Suddenly News. It grew to almost 300,000 people, fastest growing Facebook page, and was taken down. Luckily, the creator already has put up another page and has branched out to multiple platforms, so it won't be taken down again. So that way, the people that really want to be heard get their stories out there. So again, it's Died Suddenly News on Facebook and Died Suddenly News worldwide. What else has happened since I've been up here? Last Friday, in the state of Florida, the Attorney General there in the Department of Health decided not to recommend the vaccine for males ages 18 to 39. And why, you ask, which by the way, he was censored on Twitter for that, and then Twitter realized they made a mistake and put him back on. They found in the studies they were doing that young men, were having more incidence of cardiac death, not injuries, death, 85% higher in males. And then just today, as I was driving here, a Pfizer director who's on a trial over in the EU stated publicly that the vaccine was never tested to prevent transmission, contrary to what they had been advertising. This is fraud. And then I was literally sitting there on the bench, and guess what Moderna is coming out with? Another vaccine to combat cardiac health issues. So I'm starting to say what is going on
And why people aren't looking into this, it's called cognitive dissonance, okay? That's like when an ostrich sticks their head in the sand and they don't want to hear the truth because it's so against what they believe. And nobody wants to admit that you were lied to, misled, conned. All I'm asking for you is to do some research, and you probably wonder why some of us come up here and know all this information. You have to get on other platforms. You have to get off of Google, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. They're all in cahoots. They are censoring everything. And if you don't believe me, try Rumble, try Odyssey, use Brave, use DuckDuckGo. Start researching this information. And my reason I was here, because I know you reinstated Dr. Mendoza, and all I'm asking is for him to do some research and stop promoting COVID vaccine clinics with our children and our community for your own health, your own family, your own children. Please, I'm begging you, please do the research. We want to eliminate injuries because they are coming, and I don't know how you're going to prepare for it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kylie Chufo. I work for the Department of Human Services. I've worked there for over 8 years, and the past 4 of which I've been actually spent as a caseworker for CPS. Having a government job used to be a pretty good gig back in the day, but in recent times, not so much, which is kind of a shame. Gone are the days of great benefits and a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. Now, those of us that remain at DHS are burdened by having to do the work of several people due to the extreme vacancies within our agency. I think there are about 80 alone in CPS right now. Even with unlimited overtime, it is near impossible to keep up with the state and county mandates, still expected from us even with the reduced workload. As a result, the county gets fined, which costs taxpayers even more money. No amount of restructuring work groups or implementing new procedures to expedite efficiency is going to fix what is currently broken. The problem at hand is a staffing crisis. And no, not because there's staffing shortages nationwide. It's because you refuse to pay us what we are worth. Inflation went up over 9% this year, and the county solution was to give us a 7% raise. While generous, it doesn't even come close to rectifying the abhorrent salary currently offered to new recruits, which is yet another reason for the staffing crisis. Until you are willing to pay us what this job deserves, we will continue to be understaffed. This means the community we serve will not be helped to the fullest extent. This means children are going to fall through the cracks. It's inevitable. Starting salary for new CPS workers is $38,000. That's about $21 an hour. Target, McDonald's, it's about 18 with no bachelor's degree or work experience necessary. And that job doesn't come with risk. Unlike working at Target, this job comes with serious risks so severe that even police officers who we trained with at the request of the county were in awe of what we're expected to do on a daily basis. My coworkers have been assaulted, ran over with cars, have their cars destroyed by 13-year-olds who we're expected to transport. We are in our seat right next to us with no protective gear. We are not only essential employees, but we are critical employees. There isn't a plan B if we can't find and keep people to do this job. The consequences if we can't keep up with the demand is quite possibly somebody is going to die. We have contract negotiations coming up, so all I ask is that you guys bear this in mind, that the key to retaining new staff is money. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nicholas Wilt. When prosecutors needed to ensure that a grand jury would not indict the police officers who caused Daniel Prude's death, they knew just who to turn to. A nationally renowned expert named Gary Vilk, who's made a career of serving as an expert witness in testifying to the effect that a fictitious malady called excited delirium contributed to the deaths of people who had been killed by police. So egregiously biased is Mr. Vilk's perspective that when Evan Dawson hosted a radio show on the topic, he was not able to find anyone who could represent or defend Vilk's side. When I heard that Lisa Handley had been retained by the executive to consult on the redistricting process, I thought immediately of Mr. Vilk. You see, Ms. Handley has made a career specializing in consulting on the redistricting process within a special focus on rationalizing so-called majority-minority districts. It is under her tutelage that our Democratic caucus has pivoted their rhetoric from majority-minority districts to effective Black districts. But from a legal perspective, majority-minority districts and effective Black districts are just as fictional as Mr. Vilk's excited delirium. When County Executive Adam Bello needed someone to co-sign the status quo in redistricting where Black voices are muted by packing an LD 27 and cracking an LD 21, his team knew just who to call. Check out Lisa Handley's history, where her definitive book on this subject was written in 1992. And her most recent accomplishment was to dismantle Black voting rights in Michigan last year, where the state didn't even have to wait until November to see a significant reduction in Black representation across the state. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Amber Brown, Jason Coley, and Terrence Schnur.
My name is Amber Brown, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of members of Color Fairport Green. We are so happy to see that the County Climate Action Plan has been passed and that composting facilities have been listed as a priority. I'm here tonight to ask that this prioritized goal be made into a reality as soon as possible. One of Color Fairport Green's first initiatives was to ask our village and town officials to implement municipal composting for residents. I'm happy to say that the village board heard our request and has been running a successful pilot program with Impact Earth for a year. The program offers 2 sites where residents can empty their compost buckets as needed. It is a simple method of dumping your organics into a larger tote that is emptied by Impact Earth once a week. This model requires that participants must make a little more effort than just hauling a bucket to the curb, and yet the program has been hugely successful. The village of Fairport is averaging about 2 tons of organics diverted from the landfill every month. That's a half ton a week from a community of just over 5,400. Impact Earth reports that despite the self-managed style of the drop-off, there's been very little contamination in the bins. People are hungry for this service and are doing a great job incorporating it into their busy lives. Now that the village of Fairport has illustrated this interest and other communities of Monroe County are working on similar initiatives, the next step is to build facilities to process these organics in county. Hauling organics from our communities to be processed in Ontario or Seneca counties wastes fossil fuels and money. Help your communities do the right thing. Make it easier for everyone to get on board with this critical need. Please build composting facilities in our county to process organics. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good evening. My name is Jason Coley. I work at the Monroe County Children's Detention Center out in Rush. I'm speaking on behalf of the employees out there in the detention center, the ones who don't see legislators out there. It's to the point now you want to take away our increase that we're getting and give us 7%. Do you know what it's like to walk in those facility gates every single day, hear gates close behind you, the amount of stress that puts on you? We're working with limited resources, lack of radios, lack of staff, lack of keys, but yet we're assaulted, we're physically assaulted, mentally assaulted every single day we go there. And each day, We still get up and go in there every single day. We leave our families to go and try to change one youth out there. It just amazes me that the legislators can sit up there and just collect their paychecks. We go out there and fight every single day. Every single day, we're trying to change these youth. The youth that we're taking off the streets, the gangs that we have in this facility, we're harassed every single day. This isn't right. We're understaffed, and it seems like nobody cares. Who's come out there? Just the workers. That's absolutely insane to me. It's insane to our workers. You talk about legislators, we see you guys on TV, that's it. You're right here. We talk about Monroe County. Is Rush too far from Monroe County to go out there? This needs to change. And taking away our money so we can do our job properly, that we can barely do without the resources that we need, because emails have been sent. We've complained about it. We don't even have radios. Monroe County Jail would never operate without every single one of their officers having radios or keys. But we have to do it every single day. How is that fair? I hope by me speaking up here today, we can change something, not in the future, but as soon as tomorrow. Thank you.
Executive vetoes are nearly always unilateral, as they have been since Lucian Morin changed titles on January 1st, 1984 in Monroe County. Yet, they are generally recognized as an important check on the power of narrow legislative majorities. We normally think of vetoes in terms of policy differences. That's often the reason executives veto legislation, at least since the 1840s. But since the early republic, it's been widely understood that the best reason to veto legislation is because it's in conflict with a superseding law, like the United States Constitution. We are all aware, as we've been reminded by some speakers this evening, that the county executive has been advised by respected experts, despite character assassination engaged in by Ambassador Drive socialists, that the Barnhart GOP plan is unconstitutional. If this legislature acts tonight or some other night to send that plan to the county executive's desk, he has little choice but to veto it. If he does sign it, he has given anyone who wants to challenge it in court a blueprint for doing so. And in spite of our expert software engineer's opinion, it is unconstitutional. So I ask you, if you aren't able to negotiate in private, negotiate in public by releasing a map that addresses the legitimate concerns that have been raised against the Barnhart GOP plan. Thank you and have a good night.
Our next three speakers are Kathy Ruff, Corey Nix, and Mary Like.
Hello, my name is Kathy Ruff. I'm a child protective supervisor coming up on 31 years. I spoke here 5 years ago. Not really sure who in the room was here then, but I really have not seen any changes made in 5 years. It was a year past Brooke Staggles, which was really concerning. I think for me as a supervisor, it's because individual workers were named as though it was our responsibility for the death of someone in the community. When our jobs are civil service, I don't hire anyone on my team unless there's an opening. I don't fire anyone on my team. It is everyone here in this room's responsibility to keep the community safe. In April, my time here is done. I'm retiring if I make it to that point. But it's frustrating that time and time again, we talk about this now as Jessica recruited me, so I'm one of the annoying people to come up here to keep passing the torch. But there really is no solution in my mind right now, even if you give everybody $100,000. This county has made a mess of child protective in DHS. Even the temporary assistance side has a shortage where our families that are most vulnerable need financial assistance, need food stamps. There's not even staff on the other side to do the job that they need. So I'm putting it all out to you because in April, my time is done. I'm passing the torch. Someone in this room I saw quickly on the news went out to the community and was appalled at what happened. I unfortunately, on my salary, choose not to have cable where I can pause, rewind, or videotape. So I'm not sure exactly who it was, but that's what we do every day, Monday through Friday. I come into that office, I get new information. Today I was out in the field knocking on a door. I don't know who's behind that door, but there I go because that's what's asked of me, that's what's asked of me. So as my worker, who is Kylie, who just spoke, I try to support my team, but right now my job is 7 days a week. I got called on Columbus Day. I had to cover visits on Saturday and Sunday. I didn't sign up 31 years ago for a 7-day-a-week job, but I take my job seriously. Until I sign those retirement papers in April, I will keep the 45 to 50 cases on my team safe, but I'm asking each of you, what are you going to do? What are you going to do differently for DHS, for TA, for CPS? Are you going to wait for someone to die and come in the news again? But I will make sure then if I'm retired, I will speak out because it is not one individual person between 691 St. Paul or 111 Westfall Road. It is not their individual responsibility. It is everyone in this room. So I'm asking you to figure it out. Thank you.
The day I heard that refrigerated trucks were storing bodies of nursing home patients who had died of COVID because their facilities were required to accept infected residents, while a state-of-the-art, fully staffed hospital ship and the Javits Center remained empty, changed my life. Thus began my search for answers, and what I've learned has been horrifying. Big pharma, corporations, and politicians defined science and ruled our lives, while those who told the truth were demonized and censored. We continue to use and push experimental drug therapies without informed consent, calling them vaccines, and tests ruled ineffective by the FDA in August of 2021. When our unelected governor reinstated the mask mandate, 9 counties refused to comply. Why did not we join that list? Our medical director pays no attention to renowned scientists who called the alarm early on and continued tirelessly with peer-reviewed studies to validate their concerns. He gave us no useful information about how to boost our immune systems, treat symptoms early, and keep ourselves out of hospitals, which were incredibly dangerous. It is truly beyond belief that you recently voted overwhelmingly to renew his contract. Please remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is the people's house. You are here to serve us. We're not here to serve you. You swore an oath to defend the Constitution and protect us from all enemies, foreign and domestic. That must include unconstitutional executive orders and mandates and regulations by unelected bureaucrats that carry the weight of law. Our country and our state need lawmakers who have the wisdom to know and the courage to act. You will have great support. We are here now and will remain vigilant to ensure that our house is in order and serves the people of Monroe County. Thank you.
Our last three speakers are Cheryl Williams, Cheryl Briggs, and Corey Nix. This concludes the public forum.
We will now proceed with the consideration of local laws. Will the clerk please read the first item on the agenda?
Item number 1, referral 22-0331, enacting a local law entitled authorizing a lease by negotiation with 400 West Avenue LLC to use and occupy space at 400 West Avenue in the city of Rochester, New York.
Moved by Legislator John, second by Legislator Brew. This is for introductory purposes only. All in favor, say aye.
No vote. No vote.
Oh,
Just
I'm
intro.
sorry. Go ahead, Dave, with the next item.
Item number 2, referral 22-0331.LL, providing that local law entitled authorizing a lease by negotiation with 400 West Avenue LLC to use and occupy space at 400 West Avenue in the city of Rochester, New York, be tabled.
Moved by Legislator John, seconded by Legislator Brew. This is a motion to table. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 3, referral 22-0331.LL, fixing a public hearing on local law entitled authorizing a lease by negotiation with 400 West Avenue LLC to use and occupy space at 400 West Avenue in the city of Rochester, New York.
Moved by Legislator John, second by Legislator Brew. This is to set the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 4, referral 22-0353.LL, enact a local law entitled waiver of residency requirement for Monroe County Jail deputies.
Moved by Legislator Downdorfer, seconded by Legislator Brew. This is for introductory purposes only. Next item.
Item number 5, referral 22-0353.LL, providing that local law entitled waiver of residency requirement for Monroe County Jail deputies be tabled.
Moved by Legislator Downdorfer, seconded by Legislator Brew. This is a motion to table. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 6, referral number 22-0353.LL, fixing a public hearing on local law entitled waiver of residency requirement for Monroe County Jail deputies.
Moved by Legislator Downdorfer, seconded by Legislator Brew. This is to set the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Go ahead, Legislator Brew.
I'd like to move that we consider moving the remaining agenda items with the exception of items number 15, 16, 25, 32, and 35.
Can you say that one more time? Okay.
Yes. Move all the listed agenda items as one with the exception of items number 15, 16, 25, 32, and 35.
Moved by legislator Brew, seconded by legislator Roman. 32.
So we have a motion to move the remaining agenda items, which would be 7 through 35 as a whole, except for item numbers 15, 16, 25, 32, and 35. I also had a request from legislator Vecchio to declare her interest prior to these votes. We have a list for her. If there's anybody else that wishes to declare their interest, you can either have the staff, your staff contact me, or you can contact me directly, and we'll make sure that it's reflected on the resolution and in the journal. All right, is that good enough?
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Item number 15.
Okay. We are on item number 15, referral number 22-0294, accepting grant from New York State Office of Victim Services for Victim and Witness Assistance Program for District Attorney's Office.
Moved by legislator Dondorfer, seconded by legislator Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Number 16.
Item number 16, referral 22-0295, accepting grant from New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services for District Attorney's Office, Office of the Sheriff, Department of Public Safety, Office of Probation and Community Corrections for Gun-Involved Violence Elimination Partnership.
Moved by legislator Dondorfer, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, number 25.
Item number 25, referral 22-0304, authorizing contracts with not-for-profit agencies for Rochester, Monroe County Youth Bureau programs in 2022.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item, number 32.
Item number 32, referral 22-0329, amend Resolution 93 of 2021 as amended by Resolutions 4, 104, and 232 of 2022, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, Monroe County Eviction Prevention Pilot Initiative 2.0 to extend the time period.
Moved by legislator Milne, seconded by legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to the administration, what's the current end date of this program?
Can you hear me? Okay, through you, Madam President. The applications for the program has concluded. What we're doing right now, we're asking for the extension to get through the pending applications so we could appropriate those funds out.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to the administration, how much funding is left in the program to be distributed?
Madam President, this particular referral is discussing the Treasury's ERA-1 program. ERA-1 has an available balance of $690,000, $621.44.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to the administration. It was my impression earlier when we passed this that the monies were to be expended by the current end date of the program. Why has that not been the case?
Madam President, this particular program, ERA-1, has a number of components. The initial award to Monroe County, including the city's award that was redirected to the county, roughly $22 million, has an end date of September 29th of this year. That $22 million, Madam President, has been spent. U.S. Treasury reallocated unspent funding from other governments in 3 reallocation rounds, totaling approximately $2 million. It is those reallocation rounds, all 3 of them, that the Treasury is allowing an extended obligation date of December 29th. Through the county's application of the reallocation funding, it was a formality that the U.S. Treasury automatically approved the extended dates. We just need this body's permission to actually expend the funds. So the $690,000 that is yet to be expended, all can be traced back to the 3 reallocation rounds of funding, and is those dollars that we are seeking the December 29th extended date.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Franklin, for an excellent explanation.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. Next item.
Item number 35, referral 22-0352, authorizing acceptance and payment of healthcare and mental hygiene worker bonuses to Monroe County employees.
Moved by Legislator Milne, seconded by Legislator Delahanty. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Legislator.
Through you, Madam President, to the administration. Question, has there been any problems with the portal? Have you had any issues around the portal? I know some municipalities have had portal issues.
Through the president, no, we have not. We actually chose to submit a couple of days early to try to avoid any issues with the portal, which worked.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Item carries. There being no unfinished business, Legislator Brew.
This honorable body stands adjourned until Tuesday, November 15th, 2022 at 6 p.m.